And now it's time to catch up with the coach of the Warriors, brought to you by Xfinity. Stay connected, protected, and entertained. Steve Kerr with us. Coach, got to warn you, Ray is he's in a rare mood today. But, Coach, last March when Steph was hurt against the Celtics, you talked about a possible silver lining, and it looks like you were right. And has there been a silver lining, some good out of the bad during this stretch without Steph and Wiggins?
Yeah, I think so. We've had a lot of young guys step up and play and gain some confidence. I think our new players, guys like Lamb and Ty Jerome have really filled a void and established themselves. And just for the team, we when we can win games without Steph, it just builds a lot of confidence. So, it's been a good stretch for us. I told the team last night, despite the loss, I'm just really proud of everybody for holding down the fort and keeping us, kind of where we need to be in the standings, and we'll be getting reinforcements back soon. So everybody's done a great job.
That said, the last two games, you've given up a number of points that would suggest that your defense was not the way it had been earlier in the homestand or the way you like it. Is this just sort of a cyclical thing where there'll be a couple of games where you're not getting the defensive performances you expect? Or are you seeing signs of slippage that concern you?
I think there's maybe been a little bit of slippage the last couple of games. I think related to fatigue more than anything. We've just had so many games, and we've had so many guys injured that we're really relying on kind of a select group of players, and just seems like we've had a game every other night. And so I think we got a little careless last night with some fouling. We all in all, we've been doing a better job of not fouling. And then last night we started to foul jump shooters again. And, we weren't getting to rebounds, kind of some key rebounds that we needed to get. We weren't quite getting there. And, but again, overall the effort's been great. The connection has been great. And I'm confident, especially having today off and then a good day of practice tomorrow, that we'll bounce back and play really well on Saturday.
On a, quote, good day of practice, what do you do and how strenuously do you do it?
It's not so much how strenuous it is. It's just a chance to reset and to go through the basics. We have our team defensive drills that we like to do on practice days. And Ron Adams always said, you got to do those drills just like you got to get your shooting in every day. Players are going to take their, 300 shots, 400 shots a day, every day to keep their stroke going. And Ron likes to say, you got to do your defensive drills too. Otherwise you get careless, with those habits. So tomorrow's a day really to brush up on the fundamentals and, watch some tape and get ready for Orlando.
Steve, Jordan Poole, obviously without the way he's been scoring lately, you don't win these games on this homestand, and he's carried a very heavy load the last few weeks. Sometimes it appears he tries to do too much. I think perhaps you have addressed that. Is that maybe what's happened with the recent late-game turnovers? You were able to overcome them in the two previous games last night that caught up a little bit, but is that kind of what's going on with Jordan Poole at the end of these games and some of these unforced turnovers, just trying to do too much?
Yeah, I think sometimes Jordan is trying too hard to make a play. I mean, I've always felt that the game is more difficult for the players who are more talented when they're young, because they have sort of a big menu of possibilities in front of them. If you're not as talented, you're immediately limited in terms of what you can and can't do. And that was definitely the case for me as a player. I mean, I knew that there was so much I couldn't do that I didn't even bother trying. But if you're Jordan, you can pretty much do everything. And so then it becomes a case of learning, when to shoot, when to drive, when to pass, when to make the decision to do all those things. And it takes time. It takes a lot of reps, and it takes, some painful experiences and some mistakes. And the great thing is Jordan's got a great attitude, and he's helping us win games every night. He's making big plays. He's helping us in so many other ways. And so it's all just part of the total development for Jordan. And I think he's coming along great.
When you say it takes time, I know this is different for every player because every player is different. But what's a reasonable amount of time for you to be able to apply a question of, okay, now it's time that we shouldn't have to be addressing problem X or problem Y to whatever player we're talking about, not just Jordan Poole. What's a reasonable amount of time for a coach to finally say, okay, you should have this all by now?
It's just different for everybody based on, where they started from. Guy like Draymond, who played 4 years at Michigan State, you're going to expect things to come a lot quicker than you would Jonathan Kuminga based on 13 games in the G League before his arrival. So it's different for every player, and then you factor in the circumstances. What position are they playing? What are we expecting of them? What's their role? We're asking a lot of Jordan. He's our main shot creator after Steph, and so that requires an awful lot of responsibility, and so it takes longer in a case like that.
Steve, you talked about the days when you played. We know that Steph it's possible he returns for the Spurs game a week from Friday at the Alamo Dome, and the Spurs going to be celebrating their 50th anniversary that night. And you'll have other things on your mind, obviously, but how great will it be to be part of all that, especially if Steph plays, since you played on some, as I remember, some pretty good teams in San Antonio yourself?
Yeah, I'm excited about that game. I mean, my first year playing with the Spurs, I think 3 years actually, we played in the Alamo Dome. Pretty unique building, very unique environment. The way the stadium was set up, and so to go back there and to play in front of the Spurs fans in the old building, it's pretty exciting. And I understand they're trying to break the all-time record for attendance in an NBA game, which was a game that I played in when I was with the Bulls. We played in the Georgia Dome against the Hawks. I think there were about 63,000 fans there. And the Spurs are hoping to break that record. It'll be interesting to see, the scene. It'll be quite a spectacle. So I'm looking forward to it.
Given that you played in that game and you've been involved in some of the Alamo Dome games, what are you able to tell your players about shooting backgrounds, about noise levels, about the things that will make this kind of an alien experience for them?
I probably won't say a whole lot. I haven't looked at the schedule. I'm hoping we'll have a shoot around so that guys can, spend an hour just getting shots up and getting a feel for the arena themselves. I don't think we've played in any domes, since I've been the coach of the Warriors. There were, when I played late in my career, you played in one in Toronto, at the Rogers Center where the Blue Jays play now. The Raptors used to play there before their arena was built, and then San Antonio, the Alamo Dome. But I don't remember any others. And so this is a new experience for a lot of the guys. Although I'm guessing Draymond and Steph, in the NCAA tournament, played in a couple of domes, in Final Fours or regional final type things. So it'll be an interesting experience for sure.
Didn't they used to have bats in there, Steve? I remember one game, Manu Ginobili, during the game, he caught a bat out of midair. So a big cavernous place like that, a little bit of a different atmosphere than we have in most of the modern arenas. Did you ever experience bats in the old Alamo Dome?
I don't remember. I do remember the highlight of, if you want to call it that, of Manu snatching the bat out of the air. I wouldn't recommend that from a health perspective. I might let somebody with gloves on catch it with a net. But yeah, that was.
Is that what Kenny Atkinson's there for?
Yeah, that's Kenny's job.
We are coming up on the 1-year anniversary of Klay's return. And I'm just wondering, what has impressed you the most about the way he has handled everything? We can't imagine what he's been through. What has impressed you the most about the way he's handled it, getting back to a point now where he's playing? He looks like, shooting-wise, he looks like the old Klay Thompson again. How impressed have you been by what he's been through and how he's gotten to this point?
Yeah, I mean, when you just look at it from big picture, I mean, what he had to overcome to get back on the court against Cleveland a year ago, two major injuries back to back, missing 2 full seasons, 2.5 actually. I mean, it was just insane what he had to endure, and it's just wonderful to see him enjoying himself. He looks more relaxed now than he did earlier in the season. I think he's found a good perspective where he's appreciating his opportunity to play and to just enjoy, being part of the team and enjoy the fact that there's a small window in your life as a professional athlete, relative to your life, your lifespan. I mean, 10, 15 years, whatever it is, this is a time that Klay absolutely should be enjoying, and I'm really happy to see him doing so now.
Has he either confided in you, or have you noticed that there was an aha moment for him this year when all of a sudden he remembered all those things that you just spoke of?
Well, we have periodic conversations. I just try to remind him of to lose himself in the game and to enjoy himself, and Klay is a guy who leans on a lot of his teammates and coaches, and he's got a lot of confidence. And I think it's more. There wasn't like a moment where he said something to me. I've just seen it. I think since we returned from the road trip, this homestand's been really good for him, just in terms of getting him settled down.
Coach, I have 2 kind of nuts and bolts questions about last night. One, what can you share with us about the inbounds play? I think it's called, the reverse hammer that set up Klay's basket that tied the game. Ty Jerome threw such a great pass on that. What can you tell us about that, maybe where you learned that? And then also, as far as Draymond's technical, is that something that maybe you guys address with the league in terms of seeing whether they would rescind that, or is that a process that they handle on their own anyway?
Yeah, with Draymond's situation, we will definitely appeal to the league to see if there's anything that can be done. I mean, just watching the replay, I didn't think he deserved a technical, and I think the officials, I thought last night's game was really well officiated. I thought they did a great job. And then at the end, to have a situation like that where 2 guys get tangled up and the officials have time to look at it and time to make a decision, knowing that Draymond will be tossed, if they call double technicals, I don't see why the officials can't have the leeway to just say nothing. Like, hey, you guys knock it off. That's common sense. I mean, nobody should be ejected for what happened there. So I was disappointed in that regard, but we will appeal it. Hopefully, try to get Draymond's money back for him and get one of those technicals, taken off the books.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you lament the fact that officials aren't allowed to apply common sense to situations the way they used to?
Well, I think that's something that's really kept internal, within the league. I think those are discussions that are best had, within the league, and not on the radio show. That's for sure. I think I really respect the job that the league does and the way they handle their business. Are very open to communication, and I think that it's important to honor that openness by making sure we keep conversations like that in-house, and it really is a collaboration. There's a lot of people involved in how the game is officiated, competition committee, and the league takes into account players and coaches' opinions, and so that's all part of the process.
You mean especially this show, right?
Yes, especially this show.
Yeah.
Let's clarify that.
Yeah. Coach, any update on Andrew Wiggins? It would have been nice, obviously, to have him available last night, the way Bogdanovich was shooting the ball. I know you're not a doctor, but what's the latest you can give us on the health and availability of Andrew Wiggins going forward?
Yeah, I mean, the good news is he's gotten good workouts in the last couple of days, and he should be good to go to practice tomorrow. And we'll get up and down the floor a little bit and have a scrimmage, and if all goes well, then then his return is imminent. I can't say for sure that that's the following day or whether it would be next week, but he's if all goes well tomorrow, then he's really close.
Patrick Baldwin Jr.'s had quite a week. You got to be really happy with some of the things he's shown in his limited minutes this week.
Yeah, Patrick's really an exciting prospect. He's got great size and a beautiful shooting stroke. Got a good feel for the game. The ball moves when he's out there. He understands, how to play, just where the ball should go, and getting off of it early and moving, and then defensively, he's got really good size. He's got capability to have great verticality at the rim when he's in position to thwart drivers. So. It's really fun to watch him develop, and he's gaining a lot of confidence with this opportunity he's getting.
A couple more questions from me, so I apologize in advance. First of all, Joe Lacob talked to Tim Kawakami, a podcast that was released today, in which he mentioned that he's already had talks with Bob Myers about a new contract. And given the fact that yours is coming next year, has your agent talked to them about the future yet, or have you wanted not to do that? That's always stuff that remains in-house, and I have a great relationship with Joe and Bob, and we all work together really well, and so there's no issues or anything on that front, but that's all handled privately. Is your relationship with Joe going to be affected by the fact that he says he has interest in buying the Angels?
I actually asked him about that recently. I was hoping he'd buy the A's, to be honest, because I really want a new stadium in Oakland. I want that to happen, and I know I'm not the only one. I just think the A's are kind of similar to the Warriors were when Joe bought the Warriors. It's kind of like this cool brand with great colors, great history, but kind of a sleeping giant in some ways. But it's a new stadium is so necessary. I think when I got here 9 years ago, I went to one A's game, and that was it. I didn't really want to go back because the ballpark experience wasn't that great. But I go to Giants games all the time because it's a beautiful ballpark. And if the A's could ever do the same thing on the other side of the bay, it would be amazing for our community. So I would love to see that happen. And I just, knowing Joe and knowing what he's done with the Warriors, that would be really cool. But I don't think that's in the cards from what I understand.
Steve, as Ray mentioned, Joe Lacob today talked to Tim Kawakami about a number of things. He talked about, Bob Myers, and he would like to keep him, and that's obviously their business and that's their negotiations. Could you share with us, you having been a GM, what you appreciate the most about working as a coach with Bob Myers and the job he's done as your GM in your time here with the Warriors?
I think it's the stability that Bob brings and the care that he brings to every relationship that he has, whether it's, relationships with players or coaches or Joe or, other front office members. Bob is just an incredible human being, and you always know how much he cares about you. And there's just a continuity and a comfort level for the entire organization because of Bob. We know we're in great hands. And I think in professional sports, there's so much value in continuity and, having good people in place and really weathering the inevitable storms. I think about the Spurs with, Pop and R.C. Buford. Think about Miami, with Eric Spoelstra and Pat Riley and in all those cases, you just have a central figure like Bob who's just so key to keeping things together when inevitably you get a rough patch. And so Bob is just an enormous part of our success, but also our ability to sustain what's happening here.
And speaking of that UCLA connection, Coach, before we let you go, and of course we appreciate your time very much, Kevon Looney is having a great year. Minutes up, rebounds up, assists up, turnovers down. I think he leads the league in assist to turnover ratio, which is amazing. And he's so unique. And I know you've been in the game for a long time. I'm trying to think of a comp for Kevon Looney. The closest and it's not great, Paul Silas maybe. He's just so unique. Is he maybe the best conditioned, the most well-conditioned athlete in the NBA right now, Coach?
Well-conditioned athlete?
Yeah, I mean, we saw how.
I think that would be Steph Curry.
Okay, all right.
But what Loon has done is remarkable in terms of how he takes care of his body, takes care of his mind, what he's learned from the early part of his career. I think I've told this story before, but every morning when I walk into my office 2 hours before practice starts, Loon is on the practice floor doing yoga. On his own. He does a class on Zoom, while he's down on the floor. That's how he starts every day. But his brain, I mean, he's so smart. You asked about that late out of bounds play that we ran. Mm-hmm. The timing on that screen that Loon set was perfect, and that's those are the types of plays that they don't show up in the box score, and people may not realize. But you put a different guy in that spot, you may not get the exact same timing that allows Klay to be free for that shot. And that's where Looney is just so good. It's all the nuance within the game. He's not flashy, but he's incredibly bright. Got a great basketball IQ, great humility about him. And you can ask all guys on the team, he is just absolutely revered for his humanity and just what a wonderful teammate he is.
When was the last time you told him, what were you thinking out there?
Well, last night he did throw an outlet pass off of a rebound, and I turned to the coaches and I said, "What was Looney doing on that play?" he's allowed to have one of those once in a while. He hardly ever makes a mistake, and like I said, it's one of the reasons we love having him out there. We know we can count on him every single night.
Once a game?
Yeah.
Is that too much?
I lost you guys.
Ray wanted to know once. What did you ask, Ray?
I asked,
once a game?
Is he allowed once a game, or does it have to be more spaced out than that?
No. Once a week.
Once a week.
Yeah. And you kind of grunted, Coach, when I said Paul Silas. Is that like, no? And I know it's not great. Was that like maybe, or no? You're not going there with me.
No, I actually kind of liked the Paul Silas call because Silas was a great rebounder and somebody who, like Looney, didn't really get off the floor, but was all about positioning and setting screens. I don't remember his game that well, just because he was a little before my time, but that is a good comp. It's hard to find comps because, in today's game, centers are asked to, basically be lob threats or three-point shooters. And it's just rare to find any guys like Looney anymore who are, neither and yet really effective players.
Happy New Year, Coach. Thank you very much for your time. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Thanks, Whitey. Thanks, Ray. See you guys.